In fact, Rogue One is the first one on the list. So immediately, no contest. Rogue One, I think, is an S tier. And my hot take is the less Jedi are in the movie, the better it tends to be. And Rogue One has like what, one in it, and he's in it for like what, 5 minutes. That's usually been the case. Although this next one, on the other hand, is proving my theory wrong because it's Solo, and I'm putting that one in D, which is unfortunate because it had a lot of good things about it. I like the cast for it. It had legitimately one of the best like portrayals of Lando as well, and a lot of actors I really liked were in it, like Donald Glover, obviously, and unfortunately the writing in it just wasn't that good. Like, there's no way to save that one. Not even a cameo from one of my favorite characters is going to save it. Unfortunately, and I don't want to say the less Jedi are in it, the better it is, but unfortunately, Solo is the one thing that ruins my theory. In most cases, when there's less lightsabers in it, the better it tends to be. But look at the Mandalorian, right? That was fucking amazing. In fact, the series have been really good, like the one on Disney Plus. And I know a lot of people are hating on the Acolyte coming up. I don't hate it. I think it looks good. I mean, I know why they're hating on it because there's a woman in it, which is something that they happen to be allergic to, which is usually the case why they're all why any Star Wars fan is mad about something. But I think that's one of the reasons that I like Rogue One because there's a woman in it and I respect women, which is a rare thing for a Star Wars fan. Okay, Phantom Menace actually was my very first Star Wars movie. It's the one I watched first out of all of them, so I do have nostalgia for it. So I don't know where I want to put this one because I know it's not the best. But I really like it. The whole duel with I love Darth Maul. I love his double bladed saber. Um, I also love Liam Neeson, and I like the whole like final fight scene in it. It's just I wasn't a fan of the pod racing, which I know a lot of people were fans of when they were a kid. I didn't hate the politics stuff too much. I thought it did drag on quite a lot in the early part of the movie, and I didn't hate a lot of things like a lot of people, completely can never forgive the movie for. I know a lot of fans are really pissed that it introduced the idea of midichlorians and ruined the whole fantasy aspect of Star Wars a little bit, which I'm not too mad about. Like, I can just completely ignore that if I want to, that's fine. See, I want to put it in A, but my heart knows that it belongs in B, and that's being generous. Because it has some bits in it that are amazing. Duel of Fate's one of the best soundtracks, like tracks in the entire fucking series. I think John Williams during the prequel era actually did the best tracks. Like Battle of the Heroes as well, I think is the best track in the entire Star Wars franchise. As much as everyone loves the original trilogy, I think the prequels do get shit on a bit too unfairly. Oh, Attack the Clones. I'm putting that one in D. I was not a fan of episode 2 at all. I think that was the one I disliked the most. It's the one I remember the least as well. There's a reason why, like, all the prequel memes, right? Barely any of them are scenes from episode 2 because it's not that great. As much as I love Christopher Lee, he's a fucking great actor. I loved Count Dooku and his design of his lightsaber and stuff. And the movie just didn't grab me at all. It was the least interesting to me, even though it introduced Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu, who is a fantastic character. But I just didn't feel it. Next one, though. I'm torn between this one. I want to put this one in S. Again, my heart knows it belongs in A because it wasn't perfect. But I have a lot of. I think this is my favorite prequel movie. I fucking love watching Revenge of the Sith. And I want to put it in S. And I know a lot of people hate the prequels, and I'm putting like two of them on the top two tiers like this. And you know what? I'm gonna leave it because making making it controversial like this means you get more comments. Usually, it's what most people do when they do tier lists. They'll pick a popular option and put it really low, or an unpopular option really high up, and hope it causes enough discourse to get likes and comments or whatever. Gotta farm that engagement. It's what most influencers do. Okay, Next up, we have Episode 4, A New Hope. I didn't like this. I watched them all in order as well. I watched Phantom Menace was my first Star Wars movie, and then I went back and watched the original trilogy, and then I watched, the prequels, and then obviously the sequels when they came out. So I did watch them all in order like that. I didn't like A New Hope. I thought it was okay, but I think a lot of people let the nostalgia get the better of them with this one, and they give it a higher rating than it should do, because I think it's a rough around the edges. I think episodes 4 and 5, sorry, 5 and 6 are much better, because this is when like Star Wars obviously is the very first one that came out. I think it was still sort of like feeling around, trying to get its footing a little bit, and I think it's more establishing more sort of confident in storytelling in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. In fact, I'm torn on the next one because Empire Strikes Back was my favorite Star Wars movie until Rogue One came out, so I kind of want to put it up there. It was my favorite Star Wars movie for a very long time. I fucking loved the whole lightsaber duel between Darth Vader, and Luke Skywalker. I thought that movie was perfect. I think it was a 10 out of 10 movie until Rogue One came out, and I realized Rogue One is an 11 out of 10 movie. But I think that was the best Star Wars movie for a very long time, and it deserves to be in S tier more than anything else. Uh, Although my first B tier movie, it's gonna have to be Return of the Jedi. I know this. A lot of people I know say this is their favorite. I think it went on for a bit too long. The whole fight with the Ewoks in the forest where they threw rocks at stormtroopers, I think that went on for a bit too long. I get that George Lucas just happens to be a marketing genius when it comes to making very marketable designs and plushies and toys. And he needed that segment there so he can sell toys of Ewoks, right? Because that's the whole point of these movies, is to make him a lot of money by selling toy designs. The whole story being based on samurai movies like The Hidden Fortress and all that political stuff, that was an afterthought. The main reason these movies exist is to sell toys. The whole, rebels against an oppressive empire based on samurai culture. That just happens to be, coincidental, I guess. Um, Return of the Jedi, I think it started off strong. I think it's the one that I don't really watch very often, purely because I don't like the second half of it very much. I think it starts off strong, with Luke going to Jabba's palace and such, but it just I think this movie's a bit too long for me. Even when I'm an adult, I think like it lost my interest when I first watched it, and it's struggling to keep my interest afterwards. But I understand why people do like it, and I get it's a good ending to the first trilogy. I think it wraps up the story very nicely. It's a good conclusion. It leaves everyone feeling satisfied. I can see why everyone likes it. It's just not the one I liked. I liked episode 5 more, a lot more, so I'm putting that one 2 tiers higher. Next one, though, is the first sequel movie, and I think this might upset a few people with how high I rank this one, but I'm going to put The Force Awakens in A tier. It's not S tier. I know there are flaws with it, and I know people have their mind sort of like poisoned by their perception of the Disney Star Wars trilogy in hindsight now, because hindsight is 2020. But when this movie came out, fucking everyone loved it, and for good reason as well. It looked amazing. It had a lot of practical effects, and it was beat for beat, just A New Hope, but told again with better special effects. But I love the design of BB-8, my favorite droid, I think. I love literally everything about it. The only thing I can fault it for is, what, I just played it too safe with the whole uh with the whole just retelling A New Hope. But I guess it was for a new audience. I like the introduction of Kylo Ren, the way he caught that bolt in midair and just held it there. Fucking most badass use of the Force up until that point, right? That was the coolest we've ever seen anyone use the Force. I wasn't keen on his lightsaber design, the whole crossguard lightsaber. I think that's one thing I wasn't keen on. I liked literally everything else, but I loved Finn. I loved Rey's design as well, her character. I know people call her a Mary Sue, but so was Luke Skywalker, so I don't really hold it against her. The main characters of Star Wars have always been Mary Sue's. I mean, Anakin is literally the chosen one, so that trope is well and truly played out. Last Jedi. I know this is the one everyone hates. This is when everyone says the Disney Star Wars started to get bad. I somewhat disagree. I'm gonna put it in. I want to say C tier, or I might go B tier. I'm torn between these because the movie looks good. It had some good points to it. I do think it has the same problem as Return of the Jedi, where it goes on for too long, and there are bits you could very easily have cut down, so it didn't have to be as long as it was. So it's one of the ones I don't really watch much either, purely because it drags way too much towards the end. However, it has some of the coolest moments. That moment when Luke Skywalker shows up to face off against Kylo Ren, one of the coolest moments in the sequel trilogy, in my opinion. And I think that is one of the things that makes me want to put it higher. I know everyone fucking hates The Last Jedi. I don't hate it. I think it's I think it's mostly average. The reason I don't hate on it is because I don't hate the ideas the Last Jedi introduced. I hate the sequel trilogy's inability to commit to it, basically. So the whole point of the sequel trilogy is meant to be like, Kylo Ren is Anakin Skywalker in reverse. He's meant to start off mostly, questioning himself, and then he eventually becomes the main bad guy, right? That was meant to happen. Like at the end of last year, like he was the Supreme Commander. He killed Snoke. He was now in charge of the First Order. And then Rise of Skywalker dialed it back completely and just, brought Emperor Palpatine back because they thought that's what fans want. Because they were bending over backwards for fans because they thought, oh no, fan reaction to Last Jedi was too bad. We need to fix this. Let's just give them more of what they want, right? So let's bring back an old favorite. I think that's what ruined it. And that's why I'm putting Rise of Skywalker down in D, I think. I was gonna put it in C, but I don't think there's enough to redeem it, to be honest. I think the only good thing about it is, you know what, they managed to finish up Kylo Ren's story arc, so they did. Anyway, last one is the Clone Wars. I've never watched the Clone Wars actually, so I'm not gonna rank that one. But I've heard good things about it. I've had a ton of people telling me to watch that one and also to watch the series. I've heard that General Grievous is actually pretty badass in that movie. Technically, it's not canon anymore because they made the movie before the second and third prequel movie came out, and they used it. They got the design for General Grievous. They didn't know what kind of character he would be, so they made him too badass in that movie. So they had to make it non-canon, which is in my opinion, kind of fucking hilarious. Because the Star Wars canon is a bit of a mess. I know one of the issues they have with the canon right now is the Old Republic MMORPG is technically still canon, because to make it non-canon would be too expensive, so Disney are just leaving it alone. I think I've come up with the definitive tier list that no one can disagree with, because my opinions are always correct. So I put at the very top Rogue One, my absolute favorite, followed by Empire Strikes Back and Revenge of the Sith, the three best Star Wars movie from each era. I didn't like Episode 4. I'm not a fan of it. I think every Star Wars movie that came afterwards just happens to be better, apart from like a handful. In A tier, I put Phantom Menace. I know I'm being nostalgic about this one. It has flaws, but I loved it as a kid. I loved Darth Maul. I love Liam Neeson. I love The Duel of Fates. And I put it in the same tier as The Force Awakens, which I also really enjoyed. In fact, I think this is still true. The Force Awakens is still the highest like grossing movie of all time. Like it beat Titanic. And I think also Avengers Infinity War and Endgame didn't manage to beat it. They won. Avengers, I think, has the highest opening weekend. But overall, I think The Force Awakens still holds the title of the highest grossing movie of all time, which used to previously was the Titanic, which was no, it was Avatar, which beat the Titanic. So James Cameron beat his score twice, and then this beat James Cameron. Have you not? Okay. It starts off strong. The Force Awakens starts off really good. The second one, which is The Last Jedi, which everyone really hates, I don't think it was bad. I think it's the fact that they didn't commit to it. And in the third one, Rise of Skywalker, they kind of like backtracked a little bit and started pandering to the fans. That's what ruined it. Which is what I put in B tier. I put Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi in B tier. I think they're both decent movies. They go on for a bit too long. They could be trimmed down a little bit. I could do without the whole Ewok forest battle going on for that long. C tier is where I put A New Hope, which is episode 4, which I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me because they fucking love that movie, but I think it's okay. It's a bit dated. It hasn't aged as well, and I think the movies that came afterwards just happen to be better. And D tier, I put Solo, which is unfortunately one of the poorly written ones. Even though it had a good cast and they couldn't carry it. Attack of the Clones, my least favorite prequel movie. And finally, Rise of Skywalker, which is not the best. It's the worst of the sequel movies. I'm gonna save this real quick, and I'll post it on the internet, and everyone's gonna agree with me and tell me I'm correct. Because that's how discussions on the internet go, especially resolving like around things like Star Wars, right? No one disagrees or says anything bad when it comes to Star Wars. Everyone can just discuss things civilly.